wallflower.
Yeah, Perks being a wallflower
Where they
for
like
sure.
don't they beat up the
Love
guy
that
for
movie.
being gay or something?
Well, it's
His boyfriend does, but it's because he isn't
Yeah.
coming to terms with the
Yeah, but it's
sexuality.
kinda-
a guy
kinda-
calls out
yeah.
his boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then they get the gay couple gets into a fight,
right.
Yeah, but like
And
the
the-
whole just go on. Sorry.
and then like a bunch of other guys come in and start beating up the one kid.
Yeah,
Right.
the whole
Good,
theme of
also
like
a good movie. Go
of
watch
like
that.
popular
For sure.
like kids and like just like the whole mob mentality and like bullying kind of existed in all movies, I think, but I think
Right.
it showcased it more back then because I feel like it was more accepted in the 50s.
Oh, definitely. But it's weird the light they did show it in, and maybe it was just for this particular movie, but it didn't seem like the bullying was necessary. And I don't want to speak to the times and say it was better because I have no idea, and it could have been just like glorified for the movie. But it seemed like the bullying back then wasn't as malicious as the bullying is today. You know, like it
I
more
bet
so.
it was pretty bad back then.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it probably was for
The-
sure, and there was
the real
definitely some
shit.
bad stuff. But at least the way they depicted it in the movie, it was more so like he was getting bullied because he was the new kid, and I made a note of this too. It seems like it was more so because the Buzz kid just was like trying to like show off his manhood almost to the new kid and didn't want to have his like
Yeah.
masculinity test, which I think is a bad thing of the 50s and like earlier times, and we have progressed away from that where like guys don't need to be like this crazy like testosterone like driven person.
Like, architectural
Yeah.
archetype of a man or anything. But
Right.
I don't know, it was also funny like the guy has like slashed his tire, like Buzz slashed
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
I
like
want-
Jim's
yeah.
tires, which is like
Just-
that'd be absurd nowadays if like that happened at our school.
I made a
I
note
love
of that
how-
too.
That'd be absurd.
When he does that, Jim just looks over and he goes,
Yeah, first of all, imagine if that
Oh, we used
happened
to it.
today. Like, if that happened today, first of all, and someone saw you do it too, you'd probably be like fined or in jail for a couple days
Oh,
for property damage or whatever. That person would definitely call their parents. It wouldn't be like, let's settle this outside type deal. It'd be like, oh, I'm calling the police right now. I'm gonna get you in trouble. Which
Oh,
yeah, definitely is
yeah.
good, but
Also, a major backstory of this movie was that like Jim Stark, his name was.
yes.
He and his family moved around like a lot. And I think it's because he never fit in anywhere. Because it was really hard to come to be a new kid at school.
right.
And that's another change, or that's not another change, but maybe that's where the movies aren't exactly like real life. Because I mean, in my school, the new kid were like always treated like very nice.
I think that's such a today's day and age thing.
You think so?
'cause-
Do you think back
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, I think from a young age we're just taught to be accepting or more accepting.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely getting better still, and there's still progress to be made. But I think back then it was like
Back in
the
the
new
day, they
kid,
were
all
like,
that's a free
fresh
punching
meat.
bag. Yeah, I think so for
new
sure.
people?
Yeah, like we don't want new kids coming to our school. This is our like like they have their core. Like I feel like that was
Yeah,
definitely
that's
like, something
true.
they were trying to bring up.
So definitely a change there for sure.
Yeah,
I feel like also back then people were a lot more like neighborly.
yeah, they were the
Like, they were-
communities were tight because you didn't have phones. Like
Yeah.
those people, for the most part, I feel like if we're gonna go put ourselves in their world, we're probably hanging out together every day, every like weekend and stuff. So like
Yeah, everyone's doors unlocked. Just,
Yeah.
like,
It was
walking
more like-
around.
More like you with us or you against us back then. Maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. More sense of tighter knit communities. Actually, it's kind of funny. Little side note, but my uncle, I was working with him this weekend, and he brought up the point, and I think it could relate to this movie too, where back when he was growing up, like if someone knocked on your door, you'd be like, "Oh, who's here? Like, who's coming to see
Yeah.
us? Like, this is like a exciting thing." And now in today's day, if someone knocks on your door, it's like, "Who's here? Like, why is someone knocking on my door
Trying
right
to
now?"
sell me something right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. It's funny. I just think it's definitely different for sure.
Pretty off topic, but I absolutely love the vibe of being at the Griffith Observatory.
Same.
in
I
Los
love that
Angeles. Like they're there in the beginning of the movie on the field trip,
Comes full circle for sure.
and then they go back and like I don't know. That's just sick when they're like in the show.
also,
They're in the planetarium and they're like, and the guy's talking about the end of the world and the sun exploding.
right. Also, it's kind of funny too. To Andrew's point about Plato's character maybe having schizophrenia or something. I think it might be like. Do you remember that scene in the observatory where he like hides from the stars?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that could be like the lights and
He
the
was-
colors were
He was
like.
freaking out.
He was like freaking out. Maybe the lights and the colors were. It was like over sensory or something like that. I don't know.
Sensory overload.
Sensory overload. That's the word. Thank you, sir. But yeah, also funny, Steve. Sorry, just want to bring this up real quick too. The point that you made, where he's like the end of the world with the sun, I thought something really powerful. I guess is the scene when they're back in the observatory, and this is at the end. Is it cool if I go to the skip to the end real quick?
Yeah, just kind of bouncing around.
Okay, so I like obviously in this part is where Plato is trying to help Jim, and he shoots the teenagers that are coming after him, and then he shoots at the cop too. So he's in a bad situation, and he's freaking out. And obviously some stuff has happened before, and we have this scene where Jim goes to his dad, and he's like, "I don't want to be lonely anymore." Or that might have been Judy who said that. But you have all these characters who are coming to these like big points, and Plato, before his demise, goes to Jim and is like, "Is the end of the world at night?" And then Jim responds and is like, "No, it's at the dawn." And I don't know, I thought that was kind of like deep because like he was trying to help his like friend out, and kind of just shows like the end doesn't. It's not the end, I guess. You know, it's like there's still time for new beginning in a way. It was trying to show, and unfortunately for Plato, it didn't pan out.
It
that
does
way.
end at dawn for him.
It does. It does very much so end at dawn for him though, which was sad.
Yeah. By the way, did you staple sticky notes together?
Oh, I stapled them for sure. I tried to
Very
make a little
interesting. Very interesting.
book of notes. Yeah, so if you hear a little flapping around, it's my sticky note
Nice
booklet.
I've seen that before. You know.
Yeah, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Also, I mentioned the dog scene with Plato, but also like they gotta keep the guns away from Plato. This guy was not okay. Like
Right.
picked up a pistol like it was like his lunchbox. Like it was crazy.
You know what though? It's kind of funny. So Jim is trying to help Plato and try to salvage the situation at the end, and he doesn't want Plato to die. But I think that this scene at the end where Plato comes back out with the gun and is pointing at the cops, it is so wild to me because, or not wild, but like I made the connection to The Town. If you guys have seen that movie, there's a scene
Is that
where
M. Night Shyamalan?
I don't know.
No, is that the? Wait, is that the?
No,
The Town
that's
is in
the
the
movie with
Boston
Ben
I haven't
movie.
seen that. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, well I'm gonna spoil something real quick if that's cool, just because it brings this point.
All right, skip ahead like 30 seconds if you haven't seen The Town.
So in The Town, there's a scene where one of the bank robbers, he's like, "I'm not going back to jail. I can't." Pulls out his mag, and then turns to the cops and just like gets blown up by the bullets. And obviously Plato had the mag pulled on him by Jim, so it wasn't like he pulled it on himself. But I feel like he went and pointed the gun at the cops because he wanted to go out on his own terms, you know? And I feel like maybe for once that was like him taking control of his own life in a way, which I thought was interesting.
That is pretty interesting. I want to go talk about the car scene a little bit.
Okay.
I kind of talked about the similarities between high school now and high school back then, and like I think like high schoolers have like an obsessive like need to like drive cars recklessly
Yep.
because you first get your
Very
license.
true.
It's so true. I don't
Like,
know why.
In this
It's
scene,
just
they literally
young, stupid.
yeah. When you're young, you feel invincible. Like,
Right.
but in this scene, like they literally drive a stolen car off a cliff, which like honestly like not that far from reality. Honestly,
No.
really not. Like in our high school, kids used to like skirt around like 70 miles per hour doing like donuts. When there's like
Someone-
School parking lot.
it was crazy. There was
Someone
like
in our high
poles.
school like hit a pole.
Yeah, drunk
Like,
driving
drove
high
into a
schooler.
pole. Like,
Ridiculous.
that's crazy.
He tore the pole down.
He tore the pole down. Like, first of all, how do you hit a pole? Like, that's absurd. But yeah, like shit happens like that still today.
Yeah, and like when they enter, they go like literally 100 miles per hour down the ramp to the park. It's a small parking lot, probably the size of a couple of football
I've watched
fields.
multiple drag races.
It's
in the
really
parking lot.
yeah. But also, I just think it's very ironic how so James Dean is involved in that accident. He didn't die in that accident in that scene, but he did die from a car accident like before the movie was released, which is kind of weird. Also,
Karma caught up to him because he never went to the cops.
Yeah.
What car was
so-
he in, do you know?
it's a famous car. I'm not sure. Jamie, search. I'm just kidding. That's Joe Rogan reference. Shout out to Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, if you ever want to come on our podcast, you are more than welcome.
Yeah,
We
anytime,
have
Joe
chips
Rogan.
and dip.
We have chips and dip, baby.
So anyway, Jim died in a car accident. He was involved in that car scene. Okay.
Yep.
This is a little bit of a stretch, but Judy, she died. She drowned. The actor who played Judy, Natalie Wood, died at 43 years old in 1981. She drowned, and she was playing in that pool scene.
Whoa.
And Plato mentioned drowning about puppies or something. Or one of them mentioned drowning. Then she was
puppies.
they're mentioning
Yeah,
something
they
about
did.
drowning
What?
kids or something. They mentioned drowning, but she was
Oh
playing
yeah,
pool.
she was like, you can put him in the pool and you'll never have to like talk
Yeah,
to him
yeah.
again either.
About kids. She
Yeah.
died at 43, and then Plato.
Don't tell me he's dead too.
No, yeah, Sal Mineo died at the age of 37 in 1976.
Why?
He was stabbed in the heart, and he was shot in the heart in the movie. This movie's cursed.
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie's kind of sick.
That is crazy. I had
Holy
no idea about
shit.
that. First of
Yeah.
all, was that like a common trend of like actors in that era just to die before 50?
I'm
Like,
saying
that's
this movie.
absurd.
This movie like is low key cursed. I think it's why it's like really interesting to watch.
Is it like The Ring? Are we all gonna die in 7 days?
Maybe.
I hope the
I've
hell
watched this
not.
before. I watched this before, so like probably not because I lived past the first time I watched it. But.
Can I also just say, so James Dean was driving a Porsche in California.
A
The
9/11?
picture is
Let me
horrifying.
say real quick.
Like
Jesus.
he was like, that's bad.
Yeah, back then the cars
That's
weren't
bad.
as
Oh
reinforced as
my
much as they are
God.
now. But he was speeding, I
Wow.
think, and
I mean, he had to have been the car's a pancake in the picture.
yeah, in the past they used to be horrible. Now
Look up at your own risk, I
It's
guess.
flat.
Yeah. Also, apart from that, car sold for like 300,000 or something, maybe even million, some crazy amount.
yeah.
He sold,
People are fucked up.
yeah, but
Yeah, right.
I mean-
who wants the memorabilia of like literally?
no, but like James Dean, like it's part of his. I think that car's like pretty famous. Like, there's pictures of him alive in that car, very famous
right,
guy.
This one right
and
here.
like, yeah, oh yeah, he's like super iconic.
He's a
and, like,
stud. Yeah, car's
Yeah.
a stud magnet car too. You know,
facts.
but
But
And it
That's
probably
absurd.
went to the family, so that's good.
yeah,
so this whole movie, like, I just think it's like very cursing. Like, it's interesting how I don't know. I feel like watching this movie, like, it's kind of eerie knowing that James Dean dies before it's released, and then these characters die in like unfortunate ways, pretty
Right.
young. Very weird.
definitely. That is like crazy. 316. Back to the movie real quick, and the end scene where Plato dies. I think it's really nice how Jim puts his coat on him and zips it up, so it's like he finally has like a little piece of Jim like with him at all
True.
times. You know,
Yeah.
thought it was
He
kind of cool.
He was always trying to give him his jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jacket.
Oh yeah. So also to that point, we were just listening to American Pie.
We actually sang it. We could release it if you guys, if you email us, we might release it to the public.
Yeah.
Very good cover of the song.
But so after that, I had to go to the bathroom. I was doing some research on the throne, as one does, you know.
As one does.
And really interesting because, so first of all, the jester in that song American Pie is supposed to be Bob Dylan,
Bobby D.
and
And the king.
the king and the queen are also two other famous.
The king is
singers.
Elvis, I believe.
Okay,
You can interpret it however you want, but
right.
Who's the queen? You
I can look it up, but
know?
it's too much
Look it
work.
up yourself, guys.
like, did you see how it was like Bob Dylan taking the crown, the jester taking the crown from the king? It's
Yeah.
like folk taking over for.
Which was really cool. And also, they mentioned the jacket stolen from James Dean because it is a reference to this movie, Rebel Without a Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Also, in Free Willin', Bob Dylan's second album, people say he wears a jacket that's very similar to,
Somewhat similar.
yeah.
I think it's the same
beige.
jacket,
I
but
think
not color.
that's what they
It's
call.
bu- no.
Did you,
It's called a James Dean jacket. I'm
did you
pretty
say
sure.
that the whole thing with Bob Dylan?
Yeah, it's Bob
Oh,
Dylan.
but you say that because of the album cover?
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
bad, guys.
No,
my
no,
bad.
you're good,
No, no.
dude. You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that coat is like called the James Dean jacket or something.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So,
Cool.
yeah, it's pretty neat for sure.
Also, you mentioned that. So Plato always had kind of the protection of Jim
He was
Jim
always
with the
cold.
jacket. Yeah, he was always cold. And then also kind of a happy ending or bittersweet ending for Jim because at the end of the, like one of the last lines in the movie, he goes, "Mom, Dad, this is my friend Judy," and like he finally got a friend, which was like kind of a nice ending for him.
Okay, hold on. So we have to go to that scene because I made a note of that too. So when that happens, it ends with like the mom and the dad smiling at each other, and they're like super happy after all this chaos just went down. Some kid just died. I thought that they were happy because he finally had a girlfriend. Is it just because it's a friend?
I think it's a
don't
little
even
bit of
know.
both.
Okay, but either way, like based on those circumstances of how that all went down, like it's so crazy how they're like so distraught, and then he's like, "By the way, this is my friend," and they like start smiling. Whatever, life goes
Yeah.
on. He's got a friend.
I kind of felt when I watched that it was like Jim and Judy like walked away after he said that, and then the mom wanted to like say something more, and then she looked at her husband and he was just like, and she was like, and I was like, oh okay, so they're cool now.
Yeah, right. And there was also that whole like dynamic where like Jim thought the whole movie was like stand up to her and like stop being like a pushover and stuff like that. So I mean,
like
I guess
he
like,
kind of did.
Yeah, I guess he did.
But
You know,
just in his way, he was just like, hey.
Yeah.
He just smiled.
it was pretty cool. Kind of shows how like
Let's go, Dad.
yeah, they all kind of got what they needed to do. They all grew in their